Good morning, everybody. This is Totally Tropical Todd with a Wednesday morning update for Hurricane Milton. So, Hurricane Milton is overnight returned back to Hurricane Category 5 status, 160, 165 mile an hour sustained winds. This is the current track and cone. I'm using a different map here. This one's a little bit more interactive because I wanted to point out a few things. So first of all, the track has overnight they adjusted the track back north, and then this morning it's back south again. This is very normal as the models and the conditions change slightly, but I want to point out how narrow this cone is now. Um, you know, we're now fairly certain of where this is going to make landfall. Remember, this cone is not the area that's going to be affected. You can see the size of this storm, relative size of the storm, and what we have here in this in this bullseye is hurricane force winds that are you have 59 mile an hour winds in the green, and then tropical storm or 39 mile an hour sustained winds in this aqua color. So this gives you a relative size of the storm compared to where it's heading, and the storm is expected to expand and grow. This wind field that we're seeing here is expanding and growing. But I want to point out there is a lot of misinformation about the projected landfall, and I want to talk about a couple of things. So this hurricane is hitting today, right? People on the coast in Tampa, Sarasota, the west coast of Florida is going to be hit with this hurricane today. Now, when the eye actually goes over the coast, when the eye goes over the coastline, that's called landfall. That is likely going to happen overnight tonight, somewhere between around midnight. We only put the forecast every 3 hours. You see the position every 3 or 6 hours. So right now it's saying, hey, at 2 a.m. we're projecting that 2 a.m. Eastern tomorrow morning, or so late tonight into tomorrow morning is when it's projected to make landfall. But we will be feeling the effects of this storm hours and hours before that. In fact, I'm sure that the coast is already getting hammered by the massive storms that are ahead of this that you could see on the satellite and radar images, which I don't have here. But one thing I want to show, I have seen graphics showing that when this makes landfall, it will be a Cat 1 with 80 mile an hour sustained winds. That is not a major hurricane. This is a major hurricane. This is projected to be a Cat 3, and honestly, I think that it may be a Cat 4, it may be a Cat 2 when it makes landfall, but the current models are projecting a Cat 3 when it makes landfall with sustained winds of 130 miles an hour and gusts of 160 miles an hour. So this is projected to make landfall as a major hurricane, and you notice the track now is taking it just south of Tampa Bay. This is actually a very positive potential scenario for Tampa because the largest storm surge is going to be on the southern end of this storm, the right hand side, which is not so awesome for Sarasota. So right now we have the projected track is essentially going just north of Sarasota, just south of Tampa. This is not a good scenario for really for either city. I mean, going south of Tampa is better for Tampa Bay in terms of the storm surge. But I have friends in Sarasota also. So let's take a look at this is the storm surge flooding map. Now, I always find these to be a bit conservative, so I as scientists, we tend to rely on the models, and the models tend to behave a little bit better than the real world in certain regards. They're a bit of a simplification, but regardless, we could see massive storm surge. The red here is greater than 9 feet. So, we've got the yellow being 3 foot, over 3 foot, the orange being over 6 feet, and the red being over 9 feet above the regular high tide line. So you can see not great for Port Charlotte, for all of these barrier islands, for here's what, for Sarasota, but much better looking for the Tampa Bay area, where but still we're looking at 6 to 9 feet of storm surge in a lot of these areas, especially around Hillsborough. And I mean, look at this. This is, we've got some really not great potential, but if the storm does track further south, that is a positive thing for Tampa. So let's look at the storm surge. The peak surge is, this map has changed slightly. So you can see this purple area that was over Tampa Bay has now moved south. So this is where the largest storm surge of up to 15 feet is, and Tampa Bay, they're projecting up to 12 feet. And then, for Bonita Beach, up to 12 feet. So this is, looking like it could be a little bit better for Tampa than what was originally thought. That doesn't mean not devastating. That just means, maybe better than what we were projecting yesterday. Regardless, please, everyone, be careful, be safe out there, and I will continue to post updates.